Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Bernard Green. I'm chair of the Select Board Committee on Policing Reform. And this is our regular meeting of September 23rd, 2020. First of all, tonight we're not going to have any public comments. There will be an opportunity for the public to give their comments and for the committee to listen to a wide range of views and opinions at our September 30 joint meeting with the Task Force on Reimagining Policing. I'd like to start off by approving the minutes of September 16, 2020. Do any committee members have corrections to those minutes?
Did people see I had one correction, which is my least ever?
Yeah. Okay, and that's not a major correction. So unless there are any other corrections, I'd like to move approval of the minutes as amended. All in favor? Now, remind me, Devin, how do we do this? Can we just raise our hands? Sometimes we have to do more. Let's just raise our hands. All in favor? Okay. Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay.
I wasn't in attendance, so I don't think I can vote.
Okay, so I guess that's 9 approved, 1 abstain. Okay, next, let's move on to some issues that I'd like to talk about before we get into the meat of our meeting. In order to basically clear the air. I'd like to start off by talking about June Benny. I'm sorry, June, but I think this is important. Because June was caught on tape smiling after the short clip of me making a chokehold gesture, she has been subject to ugly attacks by many of the same people who are attacking me in this committee. I just want to say that June is an invaluable resource for this committee. I urge people to read a statement she wrote and will be in our meeting packet that includes some details of her background and the tremendous contributions she has made to the training of police in mental health and other areas that have helped to reduce the rates of mass incarceration in Massachusetts and elsewhere throughout the country related to mental illness. Her statement should give you a clue as to why she has been targeted by people who don't want this committee to exist. Because she has been successful in building bridges between law enforcement and community agencies and activists that have changed police culture, including here in Brookline, and created programs, trainings, and procedures that effectively address some of the major issues of contention between police and people of color in this country and in Brookline. People with an open mind will understand why I selected her for this committee and the critical need for her services on the issues we are working on. And June can add anything or retract anything I said if she would like.
I think I want to retract anything. That was very nice.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Could I read a short statement, because it has been, frankly, miserable and sleepless several days in my family for all of us. So I would appreciate it if you could just
All right, bye-bye.
read something.
Go ahead.
And this comes from the statement that I did submit into the public record, but I won't read that whole thing because I do tend to go on. Thank you, Chairman Green and members of the committee. This is my response to calls for my resignation from the Brookline Select Board Committee on Policing Reform. I'm extremely sorry that I offended people by smiling inappropriately in response to the chair's gesture in the first seconds of a 20-minute discussion of a chokehold ban discussion. Though unintended and awkward, it in no way excuses my behavior. For those who may not know me, I would also like to introduce myself and put on record my nearly 40-year career as a criminal justice reformer, a career that has defined me and of which I am extremely proud. Here in the Commonwealth and in New York City, I have held leadership positions as an advocate, attorney, policymaker, and administrator at the intersection of criminal justice, public health, mental health, and substance use. My work has focused on undoing our country's shameful history of mass incarceration and systemic racism through the criminalization of mental illness, substance use, communicable disease, gender, race, and poverty. In order to effect major systems change, I have proudly worked alongside the ACLU, the New York City Prisoner Rights Projects of Legal Aid, the Mass Prisoner Legal Services, Mental Health Legal Advisors Committee, the Massachusetts of Mental Health, Health Law Advocates, the Center for Public Representation, the Disability Law Project, and the Committee for Public Counsel Services. I've been called upon by the Boston Globe Spotlight Team, WBUR, WGBH, the New York Times, and many other publications to speak out on these issues. I collaborate with advocates in the media, as well as the most ardent activists for criminal justice reform in the State House to fight for needed change. Suffolk County DA Rachel Rollins calls upon me regularly to weigh in on issues regarding mental illness and the opioid crisis, including how to decriminalize, intervene, and support people with opioid use disorders and mental illness living near the intersection or at the intersection of Mass Ave and Melanie Cass Boulevard in Boston, also known as Methadone Mile or Recovery Road. I am viewed as a bridge builder and boundary spanner between the police, the county jails, the state prisons, the courts, the DAs, the defense bar, the advocacy committee, the media, and the legislature, because I truly believe that only by working together and across these many systems can we make profound and lasting progress on these intractable problems that are rooted in our country's history in slavery. I have spent 38 years working on these issues in every jail, house of correction, and state and federal prison in Massachusetts, New York, and many other states throughout the country. And I will proudly hold my record of achievement and successes in reforming the criminal justice system alongside anyone's. And I remain very, very hopeful that I can continue to contribute to this important work here in Brookline, a place I have called home since 1978, and where I've chosen to raise my children and my granddaughter. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I know that June is very emotional about this, and the attacks have been leveled on her. So although we could have just stipulated to her being an expert, I think it's appropriate to let her read that. Next, Raj Dhanda sent an email saying that I should resign. So I'd like, and he wants to discuss that at this meeting. So Raj, the floor is yours.
Raj, you're muted. You're going to need to unmute.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yep.
So the comments you made and the follow-up, frankly, your apology, I don't think quite does it. I think the committee has been hurt badly, and work we do and the results come out will be stained because of that. In my opinion, your position requires maintaining what I consider high moral authority. Unfortunately, as I see it, that has been lost. So that's the reason I think you should step down.
Okay, thank you. Ron, is that it, Raj?
That is it from me.
Okay, so Ron Wilkinson also circulated an email for the committee. Let's see, responding to something written by the Brookline Budget Justice.
Brookline Budget Justices and Advocacy Group in Brookline. And they put out a series of talking points explaining pretty much why they think, largely in light of Bernard's remarks, but in general, they see the work of this committee as being hopelessly compromised. And in fact said at the end that they didn't really think the committee should have existed. And they put out a set of talking points about that. I obviously disagree with them about the work and importance of this committee. And I put out basically a six-page statement that pretty much says, look, this is where I'm coming from. This is what I believe in. This is the work of the committee that I feel passionately about. And then I rebutted each of their points one by one. And I sent it out to, I believe, everybody who they sent their original thing out, and probably a few more. Look, is it okay if I just kind of read a couple of paragraphs from what I said? I won't.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So the first thing I said was, I believe that large changes are needed in public safety in the United States, locally and nationally, and that the changes must be well thought out, well implemented, and well monitored on an ongoing basis to sustainably achieve the goal of a safe, supported, trusted environment for every resident and visitor to our country and our town. I also said that I believe we need to start right away with the work of reimagining, but the implementation of any bold plan always still means starting the journey from where we are and navigating all the obstacles that will inevitably be encountered on the way of getting to our destination. To that end, I have understood the Reform Charter as how to start the journey and the Reimagining Charter as setting the ultimate destination. Because I see this as a continuous process, not an either or, I actually applied to both the Reform Committee and the Reimagining Task Force because I believe both are essential parts of the solution. Believed I could make a contribution to either focus, and so was willing to serve if selected on either one. My wife did the same. As it happens, she was selected for the Reimagining Task Force and I for the Reform Committee, giving each of us a chance to contribute. Unlike the apparent perception of some activist groups, including Brookline Budget Justice, I believe all of us who were selected to work on the Reform Committee are committed to doing the work, using the resources currently available that moves at the local level toward the ultimate goal of public safety that works to support all of us justly in community. It has been instructive for me to read the talking points put out by Brookline Budget Justice and why they do not believe that is so. I want to address each one as it appears from my perspective. I do not speak for anyone else. This is just the way things look to me. And then I kind of go on to all the points that they made and said what I said. I think it's very important that each of us on this committee present our belief and passion for the work we do. And unfortunately, there are activist groups who have not had faith in Bernard Greene for not just that remark, but for a long time. And I've heard some interesting things about that. All of us are concerned that because of the way they target Bernard Greene, it may compromise the work of this committee. And in fact, Roger's even expressing that as critical. I think it is worth for us to discuss. I would love to have each person on this committee just kind of say, this is why I'm on the committee. This is what I believe in. This is where we're going. With the goal of seeing whether our collective passion and competence and commitment will can I'll just say overcome any deficits that are there because of the history of I'll just say bad blood between Bernard and other groups in the town of Brookline.
I don't know where that bad blood comes from. Most people get along with me, even those I don't agree with. But at any rate, be that as it may. So what do you want to do, Ron?
Well, would anyone else like to make a statement?
Yeah, I would like to make a statement. I would like to make a quick statement. This is one of the reasons why some folks like me don't like this process. We lost the focus on the work. If somebody smiled or said something inappropriate, then we could deal with that, apologize and move on. But the importance of the work is greater than some of our sensitivities, because it's going to be people that look like me and Bernard and my son that lives will be on the line. So to me, and sometimes I don't agree with Mr. Greene, that's cool, but I'm not going to fry him now in that fact. I think he came to this process with sincerity, and we know that we have a lot of work to do. And the work that we do in Brookline have an impact, not just in Brookline, but in basically surrounding areas. People take notice. And what I'm discouraged is that, like, you know, I heard about it. I ignore the vast majority of things because I actually work in Roxbury, right? So I got to focus on things that really impact my neighborhood. But I'm a little bit discouraged that we went all the way over to this point and not really moving the agenda that we really can move to kind of make Brookline Police a better police department. So no, I don't think he needs to step down. I laugh at all types of different types of things, and I make awkward jokes sometimes. That doesn't mean or impact my sincerity about my community or the work. And I think that's kind of discouraging. And you know, people know my politics and people know where I stand usually. But this work is much more important than, I believe, some hurt feelings and sensitivities. And I think we really need to focus on why we initially came to this process. So that is my 2 cents. I am impacted. My son is impacted, not by a joke or somebody smiling at a joke, but by the possibility of things going wrong relative to law enforcement. I take that very seriously. So those are my 2.5 cents. And if we're about the work, let's be about the work. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think Marty has his hand up before you, Elizabeth. And then,
Well, I'm willing to defer if Elizabeth wants to go since.
well, I
people in
think
the community hear too
Jonathan
much.
Mandy's,
Sorry,
Jonathan Mandy's after you, so.
you want to go first, Elizabeth? Oh, you're muted.
Okay, Elizabeth, then Jonathan, then Marty.
I just want to say, Dwayne, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that is the point. We need to stay focused on the job we've got to do. And I personally feel like we all make mistakes. We are human and we're going to make mistakes. We're going to say something we wish we hadn't said. We're going to apologize for it, and we got to move forward, and everybody's got to do it in the spirit of that. So I feel really strongly we need to stop trying to poke at each other, no matter in what way, and just focus on the job, which is to make the Brookline Police Department the best police force we can possibly make it. And it already is an outstanding one, I know, but that doesn't mean there aren't things we can do better. And frankly, it would be really great to have Brookline Police be even more of a leader in policing. It would be really great if we could accomplish something here. So I'm totally with you on this. And I would never want you to step down, Bernard, and I appreciate all the time you give to this committee and this town. You commit a lot of time and effort, and you do a really good job. And I know you're not perfect. I'm sure there are things we disagree about, but it just is, we can still get along and make things happen for the town. So that's how I feel about it.
Thank you. Jonathan?
I believe that, you know, there's a lot of things said left and right. When it comes to group dynamics and like a working group like we have here, it's important to acknowledge that it's not because of what people said, or, you know, in your words, Ron, in that the attack or attacks rather to Bernard are sort of the things that are going to cause staying in this working group. I don't believe it's because of people's concerns, you know, and voicing their concerns is what's going to cause, or that is causing, strife or what have you in the group. And so with that said, it's also imperative for Bernard as a leader to come out and say, right, to all of us, here's where I've messed up, and here are the areas where I've messed up in the past. And this is where I see how people are responding, you know, and I want to acknowledge there's some part of that that you did the other day, Bernard. But in terms of when we talk about unity, uniting, you know, a group from a group dynamic perspective and, you know, moving forward, what are the levels of acknowledgement of the issues that which raise concerns that would have people don't get mad and angry for no reason, right? And so these things must be acknowledged and put forward in a way that isn't brushing off in saying, you know, people's emotions or you know, sensitivity. You know, I think that is not really properly acknowledging the concerns of the citizens that which, you know, we are here to create environments, you know, that they would feel happy about. So we can't just brush people's concerns away, but we also cannot move forward without properly acknowledging the hurts and pains that people are expressing, right? So these are very important things. In addition to that, we have to be careful in the work that we're doing. Are we here to promote more police work don't get me wrong, I love Brookline and I love living here and I love that I feel safe here to some extent, right? Yet at the same time, I'm not here to say every single police officer at the Brookline Police Department is bad. But I am here to say, but we have to acknowledge the deep, deep issues of systemic racism that exist within the police department. And it is not our job to promote the work of the police department in this working environment. It is our job to uncover and identify the deep issues of systemic racism that exist in propose appropriate reform that will combat, you know, and it's beyond reform to some extent. A lot of things are really cultural, you know, and I'm glad to hear, June, that you've done a lot of cultural cleansing within the department, but I believe, you know, you don't just reform things and say, okay, well, it's over. You know, there are a lot of generational, you know, decades of very deep systemic issues that exist. And so how are we going to fully understand those things, uncover them, identify them, and put in frameworks and put in systems that are going to make changes in these areas that just don't work anymore? Right? And so in order to get there, we must first acknowledge the hurts and pains that people are crying out about and really check ourselves in the work we're charged to do and what that's going to look like moving forward. Unless we're able to do that, we are not going to be successful, and the work that we do put out is going to be stained, and people are going to come back and say, I don't buy this, because it is one-sided, or that you put too much emphasis on protecting the police or what have you. So we have to make sure that we really do, you know, clean up in the public perception of this committee in a way that acknowledges their hurts and pains without brushing it off and calling it sensitivities or saying that their, you know, pain and hurts are the things that are going to cause strife in this committee. I don't believe that's it. I believe Bernard, is our leader, has a responsibility to properly acknowledge those things, and then we can create the direction we're moving forward in good faith. That's where we are. And that, I believe, is going to create the kind of group dynamic we all need and that the Brookline public deserves.
Okay, Marty, but okay, can you be short? I want to get.
You always do this when you call upon me. I don't know if you know
Oh,
that.
I'm sorry.
I'm used to, I did 3 minutes last night.
Okay.
But I did it written out just to be careful. But let me just, I learned a long time ago not to do this, but can I ask how many people saw what I sent out today, the statement that I delivered last night? Can I bother people to try to raise their hands? All right,
I'm
You
sorry.
deliver it last night.
sorry?
I saw you deliver it last night.
All right, well,
Yeah.
anyway,
I saw it
All right.
last night.
all right, so about half the people, and I won't
What's yours
duplicate it.
posted with the committee? I mean,
Well, I sent it today, including to Devin. I would be happy to have it
okay, now
posted.
do what you want to do.
I mean, speak, yeah,
Yeah.
no, I don't mind having it posted, but, so my comments are, I agree with everything that's been said, with the one exception, and Raj knows that I disagree with him on his bottom line, although I respect him for it, and I respect him for where he's coming from, and it's been a pleasure working with him on the complaint, or now accountability subcommittee. Two things I want to add is, I fully endorse the words of support for June, who I've known since I was on a commission to study the corrections department under Governor Romney and headed by Scott Harshbarger. With all due respect to any Republicans here, Governor Romney did nothing about it, but that's a whole set of issues. And Dwayne doesn't mention, he had a walking while black incident that we talked about. I think Chief O'Leary was told about it, and Dwayne chose not to issue file a formal complaint. The one thing I want to add is a friendly amendment to what Jonathan said, which is that, you know, we are in a very, very treacherous time given what's going on. I referred to it last night as, I think, the mirror image of Trump derangement syndrome and the cancel culture. And I really urge you to look at that video about the cancel culture in the Middle Ages. It's hysterical. It's only 3 minutes. It's in my written statement. But the point is that we're all going to be subject to this kind of scrutiny. And I'm used to it because I'm getting attacked all the time for things I'm saying, things I'm doing, things I'm not doing. And Brookline Tax is as well. We've been around since 1962, and we will survive this. But the point is, ultimately, the one friendly amendment to what Jonathan said is, we will be judged by what we do more in the long run. In the short run, we'll be judged by this kind of stuff. And people will probably be criticizing me in social media tomorrow for what I'm saying now. I don't look at social media. I have a couple of people that, you know, sometimes forward to me the criticisms of me or PAX, and not always. But the point is that ultimately the proof of the pudding is in the doing. And I am confident that this committee includes nothing but serious-minded doers. And we're going to do good things. And there's a lot of good things we can do. I've been against the so-called defunding amendments at town meeting. But I know that there's a lot we can do, and a lot of items on the agenda are things that I proposed to Bernard 2 months ago. So the question I have is this. I get a sense that other than Raj, and respectfully to him, generally speaking, there's support for Bernard continuing. My question is, would it be helpful for us to do a motion for a vote of confidence? Or would it just further inflame the folks that are watching right now? I'd be
Well, I mean, that's
prepared to
not for
make
me to
that
say.
motion. I'd make that motion if it's felt that it's necessary or helpful. If it's felt to be superfluous, then I won't make it.
Can I speak to that?
Ron wanted to jump in. Ron?
Oh, I only wanted to say that in addition to the solid work that we do, that one this kind of builds on. It's another way of saying, I think, what Jonathan was also saying, is that communication in terms of empathy is very, very important. I have a feeling that you would recognize that, and we need to work very hard, I believe, to establish empathy with what I would call the most vulnerable people, stakeholders in this. And my sense has been that Bernard, simply given your persona, you haven't found it easy to connect with those people. And some of your political opponents have, I'll say, exploited that particular fact. I believe for the committee to work well, we all have to work, especially those of us who maybe have different kinds of connections with the community, have to work to, because we work as a team. All of us have strengths and weaknesses. We need to work as a team to establish that empathy as part of the work that we are doing, in order for people to have confidence in what we're doing. I think that kind of communication is very, very important. I think Bernard does have some empathy with some other kinds of stakeholders, police department, some other constituents in town, perhaps the ones who are most afraid of change, but that's not going to be enough. In order to do this work well, we have to bridge gaps, bridge fears, in order to come to a place where eventually everyone will feel safe, secure, and accepted in the town of Brookline. And that's going to take communication across these different sets of stakeholders. So I just want to say that something that I think is very important in how we move forward, whether or not 100 steps down.
Before I go on to Raj, I sort of take offense at the idea that I don't have empathy with people other than a narrow band. I really, really do not believe that that's the case. And I think you need to talk to people in Brookline before thinking that is the case.
I don't think that's what Ron was saying.
Well, I don't know.
I mean, I took it as we all have to show maximum empathy.
Yeah, that's sort of a given.
The point here is what Bernard said was not empathetic.
Yes, it wasn't, but that's not the whole of me. And if we're going to focus on that,
this is not saying you are not like in empathy. I'm sure there are people in your circle that see you as an empathetic person in the way in which you interact with them, but perhaps other people in the town may not view you that way, which I think is what Ron is saying here. And what was said was not empathetic. So then it gets people to question, if in that moment that came out, you as a leader, right? What else is there, right? What else is there? Can we trust you as a leader? So that's what people are saying. That's what people are saying. People are saying, if that came out that way in that moment and you hold this position as a leader, can we trust you moving forward? And to what Ron was saying, your moral authority. That's the issue people are having here. And that's where the question of, what Ron just said about sort of empathy and sort of an empathetic relation in all of that. Nobody's coming after you and saying and demonizing you as a bad person, but we have to be able to look at things critically and holistically, and I think you have a responsibility in how you're going to show up, not just now, but moving forward in the structures in which we put in place to regain trust in the community, and I don't know where each person in this committee right now stands, but I believe that you as a leader, there are things you have to say and do that is going to be to take full responsibility, not only in what was said, but in what's going to happen moving forward.
This is Devin.
Okay.
I just want to make the committee aware. Michael Zubob has his hand raised. Paul Yee has
Okay.
his hand raised, and we are at 46 minutes into the meeting.
Okay. And also Felina, what is her last name? Felina Solomon from the Women's
Felina
Commission,
Robinson,
would like to speak. Is she still?
She used the Q&A feature.
Okay. Okay, who's next? Paul
Michael
Yee?
Zubob.
Oh, Michael Zubob. Okay, Michael, speak.
Oh, and Paul Yee too.
Yeah,
I've had the hand raised for maybe 25 minutes. So, yeah, I mean, I don't want to take up too much space or time because I think, like Dwayne said, really the substantive work is why we're here. I've been really, really torn about this, to be honest. I mean, the fact that we're talking about it suggests that Bernard's presence in the committee is detracting from our working on the substantive stuff. But it's just not clear to me what happens, like what our alternatives are. And I would really love to know what any possible alternative, I mean, yeah, like what would happen if Bernard stepped down? And I really would want to know that before I could vote on anything like that. I mean, I certainly agree that we shouldn't judge someone so strongly based on, you know, a 3-second joke. But I do think, you know, in my opinion, there are other ways in which I've been a little disappointed by the progress of the committee. Like it's taken us so many weeks to try to get information from the police department about complaints. So many of my emails to Bernard have not been replied to. We only got subcommittee assignments because Marty and I took that on ourselves and wrote it. And so, I mean, I'm really torn.
That's how the
and
committee operates.
Yeah, I agree. That's how the committee operates. But I just think I would really appreciate, Bernard, if you could be a little bit more proactive about delegating work and a little bit more responsive to emails. And I think that might build some more trust, at least for me.
Okay,
I mean, I see this work as really,
I'll try that.
really important harm reduction work, making policing more humane. And I really want to focus on that. And that's all I can say.
Okay, who's next? Paul Yee, and then Casey, looks like.
So since the issue is raised, I would second Marty Rosenthal's motion to support Bernard Green.
Possible motion.
Possible, right. So, and the reason is I think there are some people on this committee has raised that issue. And because the people have raised that issue, I think that committee members on this committee should make a decision if we're supportive of Bernard or not. It seems to me that the ultimate decision would probably go back to the select board, who made the decision to appoint the two chair people of the two different committees. So it could be our recommendation if the committee says we don't have confidence in Bernard, that the select board replace Bernard with another person. If everybody has confidence in Bernard, and it's really a moot issue. And I like to terminate this because it's just like Dwayne has stated as the first speaker, we're just losing sight and focus. We're spending almost an hour on this issue right now. I know that people are very passionate about the issues on policing and racism, and people are very passionate about what the approach should be on resolving and addressing these issues. So people will say things because of their passion. And we live in a very open community in Brookline, and people are passionate. I could see people making statements about what I may say or what other people may say because those people don't agree with it. So, but I found that everybody on this committee has been open, they've been respectful. I think that's the way to communicate, as Ron has been saying. Whether or not empathy or not empathy, I think people can judge for themselves. I think the empathy really is on the receiver who's receiving the empathy, whether or not somebody is empathetic. That's my viewpoint. Obviously, everybody has different viewpoints, but I found that everybody has been respectful and open. I could see where some people may say that it's been slow. I think Bernard has been trying to be open to that, trying to get consensus to move the committee along. So those are my feelings.
Okay, thank you. Casey?
Thank you. I'll be brief. I do echo many of the comments that were made tonight, particularly Dwayne, Dwayne's opening comments, Ron, certainly Elizabeth, Marty, Paul. I'd like to see us move forward at this point and do the important work that we're here to do. Marty's suggestion and Paul's follow through on taking a vote on this. And our level of confidence. I'm confident in your ability to remain as chair of this committee. And I think if taking a vote allows us to move forward, then we should do that and move forward and do the important work that we're here to do.
Okay, Marty, what's your, what's your?
Frankly, you're the target of most of this stuff, a little bit
Yes.
of June. And now there'll be more about me the next couple of days, but so I would defer to you on whether you think that would be helpful for you to deflect the community concern. And by the way, the amount of time, I realize it's a nuisance to all of us. We all want to do substantive work, but this is a firestorm in the community. And I think sometimes this stuff's going to happen, and it's happening. It wasn't our choice. So anyway, so I would defer to you. If you wish for the motion, I'll make it. But if you'd rather not, I won't. Someone
Well,
else could.
I think if, you know, since you brought it up, if we don't do a motion, that raises questions. So do a motion.
All right, I move a vote of confidence in Bernard as being an appreciated leader of this committee, and confidence in the committee, which is being attacked as people having no confidence in it. So that's the motion.
That's
committee-
two-pronged. Can it just
Sorry?
be in Bernard? Can it just be in Bernard and not be in Bernard and the committee?
I
Well,
think
the
those are two
problem is-
different options.
The committee's being attacked as being
Well,
lack of.
okay, let's make it simple though.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'll make it a vote of confidence in Bernard as the leader of this committee.
Well,
I
no,
second.
Well, wait. People are calling for this committee to be disbanded.
Well, that's why I said that.
I think, yeah, I think that we need a vote of confidence in our own ability to like move the work forward. And, you know, I think,
Why don't we do that separately?
okay, all right. And
What-
I guess I know I said I wasn't going to talk anymore, but I just want to say that I really appreciate Bernard for his service to the community and to this committee. And I don't know how you stay as calm and steadfast in the face of the kinds of attacks you get and the kind of hours you keep as a volunteer to move all kinds of agendas forward in Brookline. And as somebody who has run a lot of these kind of commissions, any committee at the beginning, it's like herding cats. We haven't gelled yet. We haven't had the opportunity to gel as a group yet. So it's necessarily going to be fits and starts. When I talk to Bernard, I don't know about anyone else, I walk away with 5 or 6 assignments. He is constantly moving this work forward. He is constantly thinking about how to like keep it going. And I really have just learned so much from him and really appreciate, again, the calm that he brings to this work and everything that he does for this town. So I am happy to join in any kind of vote of confidence.
Okay, since this is about me, maybe I shouldn't be leading this. Marty, why don't you call for the vote?
Well, I think Elizabeth had her hand up. Am I right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Elizabeth.
I was actually just, whether we do it in one vote or two, Marty, if you're going to run this part of the meeting, I think it is important. I think your point about the second part about the whole committee is really important. And I especially think we should, I know of June's work for many years, and I feel that in particular, June has been named in a way that I think is really does not reflect her commitment to doing what's right here in Brookline and even broader than that. So I feel like when we get to the section about the broader committee, I would argue that we should in particular mention the value of June being on our committee.
Okay, why don't we make that third resolution?
That would be fine, however we want to do it. I'll leave that to Marty, the parliamentarian here, but I feel it's really important to be very clear about how we value her input.
Okay, good. Okay, Marty, go ahead.
All right, well, I will then call for 3 votes, and frankly, I still think they could have been combined as one, but Ron, do you have something to say?
Ron?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I would like to do the one about the confidence of the committee as a whole. I would like to do that one first, and then the other 2 second and third.
Okay.
All right, fine with me. So the first motion is that the committee expresses its confidence in the motives and composition of of all our colleagues on the committee. Does that sound right?
Okay.
Good enough for good enough?
Second.
All right, hearing, we'll call for a vote. I guess, how do we do
Roll
this?
call.
Roll call.
Yeah.
I
Let's
will
see, do you have
read
ev-
the names of the committee members and we
great.
will do this in a roll call vote.
Okay,
So
thanks.
the motion on the table is a vote of confidence in the Committee on Policing Reform put forth by Marty, seconded by Ronald. June?
Hold on, excuse me, a point of order. Since I'm the parliamentarian, I direct this to myself. But were you summarizing it just now? I tried to put in some language. It was nothing brilliant about it, but it was about the motives and I forget even what I said.
You
What-
said
I think-
motives and makeup.
Oh, so you have the actual language. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry.
Incompetence. I'd like to put in there. Yeah.
Okay, great. So continue
Make it
with the roll
simple.
call. I'm sorry to interrupt a roll call.
June Binney,
Aye.
Elizabeth Childs,
Yes.
Raj Dahanda,
No, but I qualify that this is not anything personal against Bernard. It's just a concern that I have that the
No,
work.
this is not
of
about me. This is
committee
about the committee.
Be changed.
Okay.
Casey Hatchett, Casey Hatchett,
You're mute, Casey.
Yes.
Jonathan Mandy,
Abstain.
Dwayne Tyndall,
Abstain.
Ronald seconded, Paul Yee,
Yes.
Michael Zurab,
Yes.
and Bernard.
Yes.
All right, the second vote on the table is for a vote of confidence in Bernard as the chair. I believe that was raised by Marty and seconded by
Paul Yee.
Paul. June Binney,
Yes.
Elizabeth Childs,
Yes.
Raj Dahanda,
I'm sorry, which vote is this?
this
The
is
sec-
the vote of confidence in Bernard as the chair.
No.
Casey Hatchett,
Yes.
Jonathan Mandy,
Abstain.
Dwayne Tyndall,
Abstain.
Ronald Wilkinson,
Abstain.
Michael Zurab,
Abstain.
Bernard.
Oh, I have to abstain.
And the final vote on the table is a vote of confidence in June Binney as a committee member. This was put forward by Marty Rosenthal and seconded by Elizabeth.
And that because she smiled at the wrong time?
Yes.
Come on, man. Yeah, this ain't serious, man. Come on, man. Stop.
June Binney?
I think I have to abstain, right?
Yes. Bernard Green?
Yes.
Raj Nahanda?
Yes.
Casey Hatchett?
Yes.
Jonathan Mandy?
Yes.
Dwayne Tyndall?
Abstain.
Ronald Wilkinson?
Yes.
Paul Yee?
Yes.
Michael Zurab?
Yes.
And that concludes the votes.
Okay. we will convey that to the select board and we'll see what happens. So let's move on.
Could we just get I lost count. Could somebody tell us what the numbers were?
It's just going to take me a minute to put the counts together. So if you guys want to get started on business, I can let you know in the chat. We'll do that to all panelists and attendees. And then when there's a break in the business, we can say it aloud.
I
Thank
assume
you.
the
Thank
roll
you.
call will be in the minutes, I assume, anyway.
It will.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, I was not going to make a statement, but I think I will. You know, I've acknowledged that the gesture I made was inappropriate, and I have apologized. I do not think that it justifies calls for my resignation or the disbanding of this committee. But I want to make a point. The committee's role is to improve on a good, but not perfect, Brookline Police Department. Our role may include a reallocation or resources or reformulation of programs, but based on data, not uninformed opinions or secondhand information. I urge the members of this committee to avoid being distracted from the important work of the committee by what is going on around us. And we've been distracted for an hour, but you know, let's move on. Our long game is to come up with good, actionable recommendations to the select board that will significantly improve Brookline Police Department within a short time span. The Reimagining Task Force may come up with more, I guess, drastic measures and proposals, but they will have a much longer time span in terms of proposed recommendations that they have. So the two committees really are essentially part of one process. You know, short-term process of reforming and long-term process of any sort of reimagining or rethinking of public safety in general. So, you know, that's what it is. So this first item is the online educational. I would like to sort of summarize, you know, what we've been doing and other members of the subcommittee, which include June Binney, Janice Kahn, and Ron Wilkinson, and also Dan O'Leary can chime in. We sort of changed the educational concept that I originally had. Originally, it was a one-day town hall type event, but now we're looking at the recommendation, I think, of Janice Kahn, maybe, that we do a series of videotaped educational programs that will be posted to our webpage where people can view them, you know, when it's convenient. And we may also want to use them or consider using them to introduce or start our meetings. Remember, there was some discussion of having a 15-minute educational piece to our meetings at the beginning. So, you know, that we may want to do that with these videos. In addition, we'll be putting together fact sheets that can give people sort of summary of information on aspects of policing. And such fact sheets can also include, you know, the statutory and bylaw provisions that relate to them or other documents relating to them. For example, one of the fact sheets will be school resource officers. And in that fact sheet, we should include the state statute that governs school resource officers and Brookline's memorandum of understanding between the schools and the police department. So that, you know, that would give people in a on a 1-page or 2-page document with maybe attachments, a quick understanding of some of the key issues in these areas. The other areas that we're talking about so far are civil service, which we're going to have to struggle with at some point on this committee, and police details. I think that's important because, you know, there's been a lot of talk about the town spending, I think the amount stated was $6 million on police details. So it's important to just lay out the facts that, police details are not paid for by the town. Matter of fact, we get an administrative fee from the company or whoever is using the details. For example, the Netta cannabis store. They pay for the details. They pay, I think there's a set wage rate. And in addition, they pay probably 10%, I don't really know, in addition, additional amount to the town to cover our administrative costs. So in terms of the videos, the initial programs will be, first of all, a discussion of racism in policing. And that's going to be filmed in the next day or two by Dr. Gerard Cox, I'm sorry, and Deputy Michael Gropman. Then June Binney and a number of people within the police department are going to put together some videos on mental health issues. And maybe she can, talk a little more about that if she'd like. There's a lot of stuff there and a lot of incredible resources. And then there'll also be a walk and talk video, which I guess if Casey wants to explain that a little more, she can. So that's, that's my summary of the subcommittee on what is it called? Subcommittee on education, internet educationals, whatever. Any comments, questions, or anything?
I have one.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, Jonathan, you want to go first?
No, please go for it.
Well, I have one more global question and one more specific question. Let me deal with a specific one first, because the draft that we got in, I think it's the packet as opposed to the meeting materials, says preliminary draft. It's pages 6 and 7 of the packet. Lists possible presenters. Now, I guess I was a little confused.
Yeah, by the way, excuse me, that was a very, very preliminary list. I mean, I just,
okay.
And maybe I shouldn't have put them down because those are the only names that, I was aware of. So
Well, I
ignore it.
Well, I guess I don't want to ignore it. I want to pursue it, frankly, but I want to figure out how it connects with either or the online educational program or versus the work of our committee. And some of these people, I only know, I think 3 or 4 of them, maybe 3 or 4. Well, Lipson, McDevitt, and Wexler. They would be valuable for the full committee. And I guess I'm a little confused whether that's part of what's being talked about here. And then I have 2 other people to propose for this list. One was agreed by the complaint committee, subcommittee, and a new one that I put out today, a friend of mine who's an expert on school police issues, a retired juvenile court judge. So
Okay.
what is the status of this group? What are they supposed to do, I guess, the people?
No, we're trying to, conceptualize and develop these educational programs. If you want to give us the names of the people that you'd like us to consider and how to contact them, a little bit about them, what they can talk on, we'll take it and run with it.
So is it talking to the full committee or is it talking to the public, I guess? I mean, the public
What do you
hears the
mean?
full. Well, are they here to educate the public and the full committee, or I'm not really
Yeah,
clear.
these are, online public educational videos.
But not part of our committee meetings.
Well, some of them could be part of the committee meetings.
All right, well, that's what I'm trying to sort out, because the 3 people I just mentioned, and I don't know the others, maybe some of them as well, I think should come to the full committee one at a time for, 20 minutes or a half hour to be asked questions.
Okay,
Like,
so send us, send the 3 members of the committee those names, and maybe we can set and the suggestion that they come to the committee, to make a presentation, and we'll sort of organize that.
all right, well, for now, it's the three that I mentioned, and then I put out two in my email a few hours ago. It's
Okay.
Howard Friedman and Jay Blitzman is his name. So,
Okay,
I mean-
okay. So could you send to Devin the names of the three people, contact information, and something about about them? You know why we should.
well,
call them.
the three are on your list already. I got two others.
Okay, that's what I mean. Okay, send me the two others that we don't
All right.
have on the list. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Can I ask my global question?
Sure.
I mean, there's an awful lot here. It strikes me that on the topics,
Yep.
I guess what I'm wondering is whether or not I'm happy that there are people working on this, and you're obviously putting together a good product. But I guess I wonder whether we should be focusing on this at the same time that we're focusing on actual reforms. I have no doubt that the work of the police department is not understood by a lot of the community. And this is a good thing to do, but I wonder whether we should be doing it at the beginning, throughout our process, or if the energy of the people on this committee should be working on proposed reforms.
Well, yeah.
So Marty, I think
Right.
the effort of these videos is to educate this committee in the various issues that we want to talk about reform. And, while you might have extensive knowledge in certain areas, I think there's some members of this committee who may not. And we discussed that in our early meetings that Elizabeth, for instance, said like she had, a lot of experience with our department in a particular area, but maybe not in others. And before we try to change something, I think we need to be educated on what exactly it is that we're changing. We can't try to fix something if we don't know how it's broke, right? I mean, what we want to hear is what the process is, what happens, what the police department is doing before we can make an informed decision about how we may or may not want to make any changes to that. And so, I had originally suggested we had members of the department come in and spend a few minutes talking to us in a very organic manner where they could present and they could be asked questions that, maybe were important to members of this group. And you opposed that. We went with the direction of creating these short videos. And I think it will provide helpful information to many people in this group, as well as the community, and hopefully the Reimagining Committee that aren't experts in areas of the department that we're being asked to make significant change to.
Yeah, Marty, it's very hard. It's hard to move forward before everyone has the same baseline information, as you know. So, there's a lot of stuff that I hear in a lot of these meetings, whether it's, the Reimagining Task Force or, where people say, or on Facebook, like, the police the police should sometimes talk to the Brookline Community Mental Health Center, as an example. 5 years ago, we developed a process, we meaning the National Alliance on Mental Illness, when I was working there, in partnership with the Brookline Police. We were holding, and we still do, or they still do, I'm no longer involved, monthly case conferences at the Brookline Community Mental Health Center, during which people who are high utilizers of 911 services, EMS services, mental health services, transport to the emergency room, inpatient psych hospitalizations, and families and individuals who are in crisis are brought up before this committee, and we do collaborative support and problem solving to make sure that they don't come to the attention of the police anymore. And we sort of track like the 911 calls and make sure that they're going down and the Brookline Mental Health Center makes sure, checks in on people and does wellness checks to make sure that the crisis is getting abated in some way by referring them to needed community-based services. So I think no one knows that. And I think that we need to have the community know that, so that people aren't screaming, give a call to the Brookline Community Mental Health Center once in a while. So I think that just having the playing field and the knowledge-based level is really, really important. And I can, if it's time, I mean, I could talk a little bit about the Friday meeting, which is going to be to talk about this mental health video. And I can tell you who's going to be there. Others
Yeah,
are.
well, no, June,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I think you made your point, and that's a good point.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
any other discussion of this subcommittee?
Yeah, I was waiting to, it's just is a quick point that I want to make. I saw a story, just as a response. I saw a story back, I don't know if it was June or July, somebody put up a post about, her boyfriend. I couldn't go back and track names, but she put up a post about her boyfriend having a seizure. Her boyfriend is Black, and she called the police, and she was really exclaiming the fact that he was having this seizure, and so many police officers went into the room and he started questioning about drugs and so on and so forth, and didn't right away tend to the person for the call that they were called for, but instead they went on and started, and so I think, when it comes to kind of, I don't.
So what is your proposal in terms of, what we need to know and what we need to do on this committee?
Here, I have some follow-up questions pertaining to, that was more of a response in terms of how the police responded in this scenario. I don't know how they do in other ones, but I just don't believe we need. I think if we had one session, to get in overarching deep dive imagery of what the police do in their work in town, I think that's enough. I don't think we need to go and waste our time, and then get these 15-minute tidbits every single meeting. I don't think that's productive. And I don't believe that, I actually think it's a conflict of interest if we're having, the conversation about racism and policing and having the police do it. I don't think that's appropriate. But, if we're
The issue with racism is not that it just exists. We know that. The question is, what do we do about it? And that's what Groteman's talking about. And Dr. Cox is going to give the background to historical racism within policing and even within the Brookline Police Department. So, I mean, I guess I'm getting a little frustrated that we're
down the line and finish my points. I just, all I'm saying here is maybe if it was an independent person that's not affiliated with the police department.
Okay, well, give us a name and we'll incorporate them.
Sure. Okay. So, so my second point is, if there is also going to be a talk, on I guess that's connected with the racism in policing, within the police department. But then, the school resource, that's the one that I don't understand, what that video is really going to look like, because in the most recent years, just stuff like the Eric Tinsley story, the police who was supposed to protect him didn't protect him. In fact, they intimidated him, and so I just don't understand, this whole, and maybe this educational piece will help me understand what work they really do and why they didn't protect Eric Tinsley and why they intimidated him. So if we're
Jonathan, I think that these videos will do exactly that they will help educate you on things like that specific incident.
But I don't think we need 15 minutes of it every single meeting, right? So if we're gonna do that, then we also need people like Eric Tinsley to come and say their piece and what their part was and how they felt. We need to be able to have a counter.
Okay. Yeah, I would like people like Eric Tinsley to come. I'm not sure that you want to have Eric Tinsley come.
Why not? I mean,
okay, let's investigate that.
So I mean, that's my
Marty.
point. We're gonna have
Elizabeth has her hand raised.
Okay, sorry, Marty. Elizabeth.
That's all right. Go on.
I think there are a couple of things here that I would just add to what Jonathan is saying, that one of the things that is so important in Brookline is that we do, and part of being a town is that we do listen to all perspectives. And those perspectives include our citizens, our police officers, police leadership, the union, community activists, experts. And I think that it sometimes is very tedious in our town to listen to all of those people, but it's very important. It's also why we can be a community where people come together. And I'm reminded in this challenging environment that we're working in, and with this challenge that's presented to us, that it always, and I think many of you will resonate with this, it always seems like it should be easy to fix something. But actually, when you start to dig into it, if it were easy to fix, we would have already fixed it. And so I think that acknowledging that we really do all need to be steeped, educated, and understand the complexities of the things we're trying to fix is going to be essential for us to make any substantive recommendations. And there are a lot of passions about this. I completely agree with that comment earlier, but we want to apply more than passion. We want to apply real understanding of the serious difficulties and dilemmas and how it's going to impact all of these different constituencies that have a stake in making this work well. So I don't see how we can do that without taking the time to do what might seem tedious, but is essential to do this, to do a really thorough educational foundation. And I actually think that the subjects that have been laid out are really excellent, and the content is really excellent. I think it's a lot of work for people, but it will pay off in terms of what the quality of the results we get here.
Did you have a hand, Marty?
Yeah, I just want to make a procedural suggestion on this, which is apparently it seems clear to me, unless I'm misunderstanding, that there's now a twofold purpose of this. One is education for the community, and the other is education for us to facilitate our work.
Well, wait a minute. No, okay, I think you misunderstood me. I said that we may want to use some of these videos at the committee meeting. We don't have to. And maybe that's a stupid idea.
Well,
I
that's
don't
all right.
know.
Well,
I just
all right, I'll
don't-
call, that's a
as-
friendly amendment to what I just said. We may, all right. But my procedural request is this, is that at each meeting, if there's a possibility of someone coming in at the next meeting to present to us and take questions, that it be a committee decision how to prioritize those people. Because
Okay,
from what you're saying is, and I think it's true, there's plenty of people here, including myself, that know some things and don't know other things. And I think it ought to be a collective discussion about prioritizing who to come next.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
okay. So at some point in the meeting, we should talk about whether we want someone to come at our meeting on October 7th, which is the next meeting. And
That would start what I'm saying, yeah.
yeah, okay. Okay, any further discussion? I'd like to move on to our subcommittees. I actually cannot, I have another meeting at 7:30, so I don't want to be here all night. So, okay, Devin sent out committees, the subcommittees that are proposed and people who have signed up for them. Have people looked at that, and are there other subcommittees that people would like to join?
Yeah,
Jonathan,
accountability, if you could put me down for that.
accountability? Is that, you said accountability, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that, who's running? I think Michael Zurab is sort of quarterbacking that, right? Michael, you speak.
Sort of, as I mean, when we were just focusing on complaints, Marty, Raj, and I guess Marty decided I was the chair, so that's how that happened.
No. That was Bernard's decision.
Okay.
No, I'm not making any
I'd
decision.
like to see that in a minute somewhere. But I worry. Right now we have five members on the accountability committee. And
Oh, there's a lot of work on that committee, so.
that's true, but only, for example, 2, and 1 is you, Bernard, and I'm not sure if it's ex officio for personnel.
Yeah.
But
Actually, I don't need to be on that committee because there are sufficient numbers that we don't have that quorum problem.
Mm-hmm. Personnel is the civil service one, so I think we really need people to beef up on that. I just wanted to add that I'm currently working with Casey and also with Jonathan on the walk and talk stuff, which I put under community outreach. So I feel like I'm already doing that. So I'd like to be added to that. Thanks.
Okay, good. So I'm going to take myself off the accountability committee because I'm not needed. And the online education, it presumably is not going to be a permanent committee, but anyway. Let's see, the accountability committee, the most recent reports of, well, the report by Bobby Nabel and Kelly Race, I think are being sent to you or have already been sent to you. And one of the things that the committee should do is to look at their recommendations and make a report on that, because that's maybe something we want to quickly implement. Okay.
Can I respond to that briefly? Because
Sure.
I mean, you had a marked up version of the 2017 recommendations that you've had a public hearing about in October of 2019. And then you said that you would schedule in October of 2019, you said that you would schedule a vote in a few weeks to adopt those recommendations. And then that vote was never scheduled. So I'm just wondering.
Yeah, there's a lot of dispute.
Yeah, no, that's all fine. I'm just wondering, like, what's our role here in terms of that report, given that the recommendations from that report have already been implemented? It seems like there's other things we can recommend, but it seems to me that the select board should just vote on that.
May I jump in for a second, Bernard?
Wait, have those recommendations been implemented? I don't think so.
No, I mean, they've been written, but you haven't voted on implementing. Yeah,
okay.
That's what I meant.
Well, I'm thinking that this committee could inform the board and we could, act based on, anything you have to say. I'm sorry, Marty.
Well, Michael and I have talked about this. My sentiment is slightly different from Michael's. I think I'm happy that those proposals were not adopted because I've criticized them publicly, and I still think that they have problems. And I'm happy that this full committee could and should, I believe, use them as a beginning point, but do what we want instead. And I don't see the point of putting them forward when we're going to make them better, which I'm confident we can do.
Okay.
So we will work on them. I mean,
wait a minute. Actually, Casey had her hand up. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't see in the packet where the committee assignments were. Are they? Okay, I just found them. Never mind. Sorry, I found them.
And June, before you speak, Michael Downey had his hand up, and he's a lawyer here. So let's see if we did anything wrong. Michael?
No, nothing wrong. I just thought that I figured that I do have familiarity with the civil service laws, and I know it can get complicated. So if that committee has any questions related to that, I just wanted to offer my assistance. They can reach out to me if they have questions.
May I add on that? I sent out a Ken Kurnos memo from some time ago, but it's Mel's memo that we got was very good, but Ken's is longer and a little more detailed. And I hope whoever's going to work on that initially will take a look at that. He was the head of the Human Resource Board when he wrote it. And anyway, that's it.
Okay. Okay, any other discussion of committee assignments? Okay, let's move on to the subcommittee reports. We already talked about the online educational stuff. Let's see, I'm looking for my agenda here. Paper everywhere. Crime of the Ancient Mariner. Okay, report on, discuss, civilian complaints subcommittee. I guess we were just talking about that, right?
A little bit.
We were, but I'd like to make or just ask about one additional thing. So today I received from Dan O'Leary the 2019 redacted complaints, which was helpful. But I know that there is some effort going on to reach out to people who filed complaints and ask them whether they'd be willing to be interviewed by us. And I just wanted an update about whether they've been reached out to.
Yeah, I think they've been reached out to, and well, Dan, why don't you say?
We put together an email. We're looking for responses to come back by October 2nd.
Okay.
The contact person is Lloyd Gelano in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, for the people to get back to him whether they want to participate or not.
Okay.
And emails would have gone out to people Monday.
Like 2 days ago?
Yes.
Okay.
Monday or Tuesday, depending on when they read their emails.
Yeah, sure.
2 people did not provide emails, and they are getting letters through the U.S. mail sent to their homes.
Okay. Bernard, is it okay if I reach out directly to Lloyd? I mean, I can CC you, but just
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I wanted Lloyd to be the recipient so that no one could say that they're intimidated by having to, respond to the police. So.
Yeah, I think that was a good move. So I appreciate that. Marty, can you think of anything else?
Yeah, one other thing that we talked about, and there's a question for Bernard, I guess. Well, 2 things. First of all, we've had difficulty scheduling with Bobby Nabel and Kelly Race to come talk to us. And I'm feeling, even though I know them both, especially Bobby for a long time, and she's on the PAX board, but I think a little oomph from the 6th floor would help us. And so I'm hoping that either you or Mel or somebody could reach out to them and urge them to get together with us.
Yeah, I think you should keep reaching out to them. I mean,
well, I've done a lot of it, and I don't think it's purposeful. I don't.
No, but there was some. I mean, they did feel somewhat attacked when the reports came out, and so I don't want to push them. I mean, I think both of them will work with you. It's just a question of probably their schedules. I mean, Bobby's very busy.
She's on advisory too.
Yeah.
Well, I'll keep trying. I'll try again, but it's getting kind of frustrating.
If you want me to reach out to them, I mean, I'm willing to do that. I don't want.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Is I think somebody with more clout than us.
Well,
you have clout now that you got your vote of confidence.
Yeah, but it wasn't strong enough, so my clout is somewhat diminished.
Let me move on to the second question, which is, I do believe, and I'd like to talk to them first to try to understand some of the questions in their report, but I think, is it appropriate, or should we go through Chief O'Leary on having Lieutenant Campbell come in to talk to us? I think that he's somebody that should come talk to our subcommittee, not necessarily the full committee.
Yeah,
how
that's
should we
fairly
have-
easy to do. I mean, I don't know what his working on, but yeah, I mean, Chief O'Leary, talk to Chief O'Leary about that.
I can set that up, Marty. I talk regularly to the lieutenant. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and if Raj or Michael disagrees, I'd like to hear what a little from Bobby and Kelly first, and then that would give more questions to ask Lieutenant Campbell. So we'll keep trying on that two-step process. Does that sound right, Michael and Raj?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure, but our committee is a little bigger than just.
Oh yeah,
Raj,
I'm
and
forgetting that we have
we have
new.
to think about that.
We have new, fresh faces. So to speak.
Yeah, so I'll find a way for us to all meet.
All right. Anyway, and I'll keep plugging away. I am a Taurus on Bobby Nabel and Kelly Race. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, Community Outreach Subcommittee. Anything to report there?
I can update that we have sent the draft copy of the survey that we produced regarding the Walk and Talk program to staff members at the Brookline Housing Authority, as well as they're going to be sharing that with some residents and some key staff. I have heard back comments from 2 staff members so far, and we're waiting to hear back hopefully by the end of the week from a few more folks that have input as to the survey and best means of distribution to Housing Authority residents. So that's
Right.
moving along.
Great. And can I just ask, Bernard, I'm sorry. I know we asked a lot of you and you have a ton on your plate, but I was just curious what the protocol was for using resources available to the committee. I mentioned this a few weeks ago, but
What
as
resources? What do you mean
like
resources?
financial resources, like suppose
Oh.
we needed to translate the survey and we needed to pay someone to translate it, how would we access the committee's resources to pay the translator, that kind of thing?
Oh, Dan, do you know?
Maybe I can answer. This is Mel Kleckner.
Oh.
Can I
Oh,
answer?
you're here.
There is a small amount of money that was appropriated at town meeting when these committees were created. So there are some.
I just,
So I would just say
yes.
work through Devin or myself, and we'll make sure. But it's got to be a committee decision, not just individual members.
Yeah.
And this is not an unlimited pot of money, and I'm sure, and it really is divided between the two committees. So I'm a little concerned that over the next 6 to 9 months, we could easily deplete that.
Those all make lots of sense. I just wanted to know, I mean, even basic facts about it so that I can think about how we can use those resources well. And it is something we raised a few weeks ago. So
Yeah, okay.
May I just ask Mel what if he remembers the amount?
Was it 50 or 100? I'm not sure what town meeting ended up with.
It's $50,000 for both committees.
50,000, okay.
Thank you.
That was a chaotic town meeting.
I think Michael's asking in reference to we're considering there be some cost as to translation for the survey for residents for whom English isn't their first language. And I'll work with the school department who has done our translations in the past, and Danielle Mendoza from Housing, who may be able to help us with some translation services as well, and try to get a good price on that. But I think it's a real important part of our surveys to make sure that it's accessible to all of the residents who we want to hear from.
Right. Okay, great. Okay, anything else on that? Okay. Chokehold ban. We approved it last week. What I'd like to do, unless someone has an objection, is actually submit it to the select board for approval and incorporate it into the use of force policy. Now, that's not, I mean, that's a little more a longer process than what I just stated, but I want to begin that process. Any objection to that? Okay.
No, but I do have a comment.
Yeah, I know your
usual.
comment.
I always have a comment. I'm sorry.
Maybe no comment, Marty.
Sorry?
You don't need to comment necessarily unless
Yeah, we know what it is.
Well, Bernard knows because I've been harping on this for since 1987, frankly.
Maybe I don't know this one.
All right. Well, then, anyway, the point I think Chief O'Leary knows is that we voted in 1987, the board, that policy changes by the select board would be subjected to public hearings on police issues. And I think that was a very important vote. And I just remind you and Mel Kleckner of that. That's never been rescinded by any board of selectmen.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Yeah, that's why it's not as quick as I suggested.
Well,
but,
it gets back to the misstatement, misattributed to Mussolini about the trains.
Okay, they always run on time or something. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Okay, anything else we need to talk about? We may be finished.
Can we talk a little about the public hearing?
Sure.
This segue from what I just said.
Talk about that.
Sorry?
Yeah, we do have a lot to talk about on that.
Yeah, I have two questions. One is, what's the nature of the outreach that's been done? I'm guessing that social media will bring out a lot of people, but that's question one. And the other question, what will the format be between the two committees, and will be wanting to ask questions or just listen?
I see it as just a listening session. I'm giving people an opportunity to say whatever they want to say, and not constrained by posing it in the form of a question, but in whatever form they want to do it.
The other committee also agreed to that?
Well, do you want to talk about it?
No, I'm just asking. I'm just asking. I mean, I think it makes sense for us to do it that way. I just, since it's a joint public hearing with the task force, I just wondered whether the task force had also agreed that this was the format we would use.
Well, I mean, I've been talking to Raul, and he agrees with that. So I don't know. I mean, do we? And we can discuss it. Alternatives here in this committee, if you want. But
the task force has it on their agenda for discussion on Friday as well. So I think that's probably the first time that they'll formally discuss it, much like you all are doing tonight.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, can I add again, a friendly amendment to what Bernard just said, which sounded right to me, but I'm anticipating, in spite of my first question about publicizing, that there'll be a lot of people, in which case I would be preferring what Bernard just said. If by chance there's less people, then, I'd be more flexible in terms of us, when someone speaks, asking them a question, for instance. So I don't know, we want to make it a flat out. I don't think we have to decide that right now or Friday with the task force.
Yeah. Look, I mean, we're going to at least be an hour. So
I would also say I'm in the process of putting out a press release. So I think that it's important that the format remain consistent. What we advertise is what should be executed.
Yeah. And just think of the chaos that that would result if we were asking people questions and they're responding and back and forth. I mean, we could do that in certain situations, but I think it would undermine the at least my intent just to hear what people say. I mean, everyone's saying we don't listen to people, so I want to just give people an opportunity to provide their raw opinions, ideas, recommendations, complaints, whatever. I think if we try to structure it more, it sort of undercuts that goal.
Will we have to time limit people speaking if we're expecting a lot of people in a constrained amount of time?
Yeah, I usually say 3 minutes. I mean, that's plenty of time for people to make their point. And when I run meetings, I'm usually flexible if someone goes over. Was I flexible with you last night, Marty? I was flexible with some people.
I was pretty close to 3 minutes until I had to add one sentence commending the board and the union for adopting a camera in the contract. So.
Okay. So I gave you a little leeway. So I try to be reasonable and let people talk even though they go over. But we try to tell people to keep it to 3 minutes. I mean that's plenty of time. And we tell them you don't want to take away from the time of other people who may have things they want to say too. So.
Elizabeth has her hand up, and I.
Oh, I'm sorry, Elizabeth.
I just want to say I completely agree with it being listening and not having a back and forth. I think actually it's easier to listen when you're not thinking about what questions you want to ask. But I'm wondering if we could invite people, if they're willing to give their contact information. Or to put that somehow in the chat or something so that we could collect it in case there are people that speak and we do have questions and we want to follow up later. If they'd be willing to do that, it would help us a lot, I think.
Yeah.
I agree with that. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah. And what I was thinking also, I haven't said this to anyone, but someone has a complaint or an allegation. That's not an individual complaint, but an allegation that's much broader. We could ask them to come and be a witness to the committee, and have an interactive discussion that way.
But the reason I like Elizabeth's idea is, for instance, if someone comes and talks about an individual incident, many of us would like to do a follow-up question, like, if they say they filed a complaint, but they were treated rudely, what happened later? If they don't tell us, we should be able to get back to them if they're willing.
Okay. Okay. Tell people, how do we do this, Devin? But just tell people to give their email contact information in the chat box.
Yeah. So what I've drafted up so far is that, you know, we'll recommend that people sign up in advance. Obviously, people are more than welcome to join us once they're in the Zoom if they were forwarded it late. That's totally fine. And then they can privately share their contact information with me. And I'll obviously share my contact information as the staff person in the press release, as well as once we start the Zoom, so folks can share it. And just quickly to touch on, Marty, your point earlier, a couple of weeks ago, I reached out to Bernard and Raul and asked if anyone on the task force or the committee, you know, had a particular affinity for marketing or wanted to put together a flyer and put some stuff out in the community. That is something, you know, that other boards and committees do for their work. So that's something that you could consider. I know we're now 1 week out. So I am going to use the town social media channels, obviously, to promote this like we do for other town events. And we are running a press release. And so that is the extent of the outreach. But really, this is going to be on the members of the task force and the committee to push out to their circles, get into the neighborhoods, and make sure that people are aware that it's happening.
Great.
Thanks.
Okay, if anyone has any particular networks they'd like to send this out to, what should we send out? The press release you're preparing?
I mean, I don't know if that's necessary. I mean, I think our press releases have a pretty large reach that will, you know, go on the website. Certainly you can share the link. I'm going to post it today to the town website. So that information will be up there with a full description once the task force meets on Friday and they sort of weigh in. But that was sort of why I was wondering, you know, if somebody wanted to create a flyer or a graphic or something that we could use to be sent around. If no one on this group wants to do it, I can see if someone on the task force wants to do it, and then we can go from there.
Yeah. I don't know. Is anyone that creative? It's not me.
I mean, I'm happy to work with Devin on something, and I do think it's important to have, you know, a simple flyer to grab the attention, you know, and eye of someone, and we can make copies and distribute that in paper format to, you know, some of our senior housing and our Brookline housing, you know, and work with the food pantry, and they can have it available at pickup. But I think, you know, there's a lot of people that aren't online, and we really rely so heavily on social media to get information out to our residents, and we're missing a large number of people that aren't dialed in that way. And I think that's I think that's unfortunate, because this is such an important issue that I think there's many people that we need to try to reach by non-traditional social media, you know, and electronic means. I'm happy to work with Devin on putting together a simple one-pager if you're available for that.
Okay. Anne, did you have something to say?
I was going to say yes. I was going to say you can also request people to submit their comments in writing. So if someone has a longer statement, then they could submit that and then get their 3 minutes or 2 minutes, however long it's going to be. And that can be added to the record of the listening session.
Great. Okay.
Bernard, can I just clarify one thing that Devin said? Maybe I misinterpreted, but I think that whether they want to give their contact information should be optional.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you said otherwise. There was something you said that made me think that you were saying something different.
No. Although, Devin, when people sign up for Zoom, don't they have to give their email?
I don't get their email. We don't save that information. But I can see that they've signed in, hopefully with their real name, but we don't keep any contact information from that.
Okay. Okay, anything else on this? Anything else to discuss? We've been doing this for 2 hours almost.
Bernard, have we decided that we're going to schedule 2 hours? I think we should for every full meeting. Is that been decided?
No, it hasn't, but what do people think?
Yes.
Any objections? Okay. We'll try to make sure that, okay. So the plan is going forward 2 hours. The other plan, which I guess is my idea, but the committee can say what they want to say about it, that we have our, after the hearing on the 30th, we have our next meeting on October 7th, and then subsequent meetings every other week instead of every week.
That's what we decided last week.
Oh, we already decided that. Okay, good. So it's
the sub-
decided. Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I
I
know
don't-
some people had been having problems with their calendar invitations, but you should have all received now a recurring calendar and Zoom invite for this meeting every other week.
Okay, good.
Can everyone confirm that?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, good. Okay, anything else?
One last question.
Okay,
Devin,
Marty.
are you going to get us the numbers on those votes maybe later?
They're in the chat, but I am happy to send them in an email to this group.
Okay, can that be downloaded from the chat?
Marty,
don't
I'll
think
send
it
them to you.
can.
I'll just send them to you if that
Yeah.
sounds okay.
I'm happy
All right,
to send an email to the whole committee.
Thank you. All right.
Oh, actually, I have a quick question, completely unrelated. Devin, after we were sworn in, there was some information that was going to be sent out to fill out. I never received any of that. Is that on the way, or was it already sent out, or?
I'm happy to check in with the assistant town clerk on that. I know that they had always planned to wait until after the primary election because they were a little underwater with that. But I'm happy to follow up with the assistant town clerk and make sure that, you know, you folks are on your way to receiving those materials.
Okay. And those materials include state conflict of interest statute and other materials, which I think people should focus on, among other things.
I will share that Ronald actually took a little initiative and found the online version and completed it and signed it and sent it in. So you don't have to wait. The links that I provided you is everything that the town clerk's office will send you. She's just sending you a couple pieces of official paperwork as well that we need to keep on record just as a board and commission member. But you're more than welcome to do the online portion as opposed to the hard copy that gets sent out.
Okay. Anything else?
Move to adjourn.
Adjourn then. A second, I guess is what I should have said. Okay, any objection? Okay, meeting ends. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, thank you.
Bye.